What's up, everybody? I'm gonna take a massive victory lap on this one. I was right because, of course, I'm fucking right. I can read the Constitution. Article 1. Was it Section 8? I may be off on that part, but damn it, I know the text. Congress has the right to levy taxes. A tariff is a tax. So, of course, a U.S. court has stepped in and blocked Trump's Liberation Day tariffs. But the damage to the supply chain has been done already, unfortunately. But at least they've stepped into assert authority and inject a little reality into the fucking situation. I'm tired of like operating under this fantasy that Donald Trump can do these tariffs. In order for the president to do tariffs on this level, there has to be an emergency. Trade deficits are not an emergency unless you're fucking 3 years old. That's insult to 3 year olds. Donald Trump's a moron. Let's get to reading. A U.S. trade court on Wednesday blocked Donald Trump's tariffs from going into effect, ruling that the president overstepped his authority by imposing across-the-board duties on duties and duties. It was duties, excises, and taxes. I think that fell under that constitutional article. Duties on imports from nations that sell more to the United States than they buy. The Manhattan-based Court of International Trade said the U.S. Constitution gives Congress, and I had some idiot try to argue with me that the president has authority, and I gave him the text, and he kept moving the goalposts. He said, well, Congress gave up. That's not how it works, idiot. We still have co-equal branches of government in this country. I know these baby brains don't understand that, but some of us still live in reality and understand our system of governance and give credence to it and get offended when idiots try to tell us that the president has tariff authority. We can read. Not all of us are idiots. Anyways, the Congress exclusive authority to regulate commerce with other countries that is not overridden by the president's emergency powers to safeguard the U.S. economy. The court does not pass upon the wisdom or likely effectiveness of the president's use of tariffs as leverage. That use is impermissible not because it is unwise or ineffective, but because federal law does not allow it. You understand? And he got struck down 3 votes to none. The Trump administration minutes later filed a notice of appeal. I'm sure they did. The ruling came in a pair of lawsuits, one filed by nonpartisan Liberty Justice Center on behalf of 5 small U.S. businesses that were probably going to get destroyed by these tariffs. The businesses that are going to get hurt worse by tariffs are small businesses. They would not be able to afford to import anything. They'd import goods from countries targeted by the duties and the other 13 U.S. states. God bless those states for stepping up against this idiot. The companies, which range from a New York wine and spirits importer to a Virginia-based maker of educational kits and musical instruments, have said the tariffs will hurt their ability to do business. The White House and lawyers for groups that sued did not immediately respond to requests for comment. What can you say? Ugh. Stephen Miller, the human scum, a White House deputy chief of staff and one of Trump's lead policy advisors, rebuked the court. I'm not even going to read this crap. Who cares what he has to think about anything? Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield, a Democrat whose office is leading the state's lawsuit, called Trump's tariffs unlawful, reckless, and economically devastating. True, true, and true. This ruling reaffirms that our laws matter. The truth matters, damn it. And that trade decisions can't be made on the president's whim. If they could, we wouldn't have a democracy or representative democracy, republic, whatever you want to call it. The president, thank God, does not have any more power than the legislative or judicial branch. It needs to stay that way. The founding fathers were genius, children of the Enlightenment. They understood things even our tiny little brains could never comprehend. Don't fuck with their system of government. Trump has claimed broad authority to set tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which is meant to address unusual and extraordinary threats during a national emergency, which we don't have. There's no emergency. These are called trade deals, some of which he worked out, like the USMCA, U.S. Mexico Canada trade agreement. He's like, who worked out this terrible deal? Who made this terrible deal? It was him. Like, this is not a serious man. And shame on Americans once again, the 77 million whatever idiots that voted for this guy. You are an eternal disgrace. The law has historically been used to impose sanctions on enemies of the U.S. or freeze their assets. Trump is the first U.S. president to use it to impose tariffs. Gee, I wonder why. The Justice Department has said the lawsuit should be dismissed because the plaintiffs have not been harmed by tariffs. They have not. Yes, they have. Because supply chain's fucked up. And because only Congress, not private businesses, can challenge a national emergency, blah, blah, blah. In imposing the tariffs in early April, Trump called the trade deficit a national emergency that justifies 10% across the board tariffs on all imports with higher rates for countries of which the United States has the largest deficits, particularly China. Insane. Many of those country-specific tariffs were paused a week later. The Trump administration on May 12th said it has also temporarily reduced the steepest tariffs on China while working on a longer-term trade deal. I guess nothing comes of that trade deal. Both countries agreed to cut tariffs on each other for at least 90 days. Trump's on again, off again tariffs, which he said are intended to restore U.S. manufacturing capability, have shocked U.S. financial markets. The U.S. dollar rose again, rose against both the Swiss franc, a traditional currency safe haven, and the Japanese yen following the court decision. Gee, I can't possibly imagine why the dollar rose after this court decision. Thank God for the courts. Thank God for the founding fathers. Three co-equal branches of government. Legislative branch has tariff authority. I'll leave the text from the Constitution once again in the description. You can't argue with it. It's just an immutable fact, a unbendable fact. If that's what the Constitution says, I would just bring up the text right now, but I don't want to make this video any longer than it has to be. Just taking a little victory lap. I'm sure it'll go to the Supreme Court. It will go somewhere, some kind of appeals court. I imagine it'll be held up on appeal. Then it'll go to the Supreme Court. God, who knows what they'll do? They'll probably give Trump like a 6-3 majority that he does have the tariff authority because they're idiots. But the language in the Constitution is clear, and I wish that words had meaning again.